Hey everybody, Dave Costello here, founder and CEO of Jetpack Workflow and host of the Growing Your Firm podcast. Today's guest is Craig Hausz. Now, Craig leads CMH Advisors growth activities as well as serving the managing partner in the firm. He started his career more than 20 years ago with Arthur Andersen and founded the firm in 2014 with his wife, Michelle, after realizing that traditional CPA firms fall woefully short in serving their clients. I think all the Growing Your Firm listeners can really feel that passion. It's probably why they started their firm as well. Now, Craig has a passion for helping everyone he has come in contact with and gets 1% better every day through tax and financial strategies that help them achieve the goals that their hearts desire. Now, before this interview, we talked about, something interesting about Craig is he's really gone through this kind of initial growth stage or maybe the second growth stage in his firm where maybe made his first hires. Now they've scaled up to a team of 12. We're going to talk about that journey and so much more. But first, I'd like to say, Craig, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Welcome. Appreciate having me on.
Yeah, well, for folks not familiar with the firm, briefly tell us about the types of clients you serve and the services you provide for them, just to set the context.
Sure. My wife and I are both CPAs, former Arthur Andersen alumni, worked at obviously the biggest firm in the world, worked at medium-sized firms and worked at small firms, and quickly found that so many of the traditional CPA firms, they work a lot of hours and everybody's miserable and they get burned out, and they wanted to find something else to do and wanted to be able to work with clients that need the advisor and need to have somebody that they can turn to when things aren't going well for them or things are going really well, and how do they protect it. So we've always focused on being that advisor first, being the person that the growth-minded entrepreneur and the high net worth family can turn to.
Got it. And when you think about your client base, is it focused on the Dallas-Fort Worth area? Is it focused on an industry? Is it national? What's the client mix look like?
For a firm our size, I guess you could consider it national, even though we have one office in Dallas. We work with clients in over 40 states. I believe we filed in 46 or 44 states last year in total. So we have clients in basically all four corners: Hawaii, Washington State, Florida, New Hampshire. We don't do Alaska, so we technically don't have that corner, but we work with clients all over the country. 80 to 90% of our clients are Texas-based, most of them being in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Got it. Well, I mentioned at the beginning of the interview that I think something that a lot of our listeners struggle with, or they're trying to elevate to the next level, which is, you've gone through this journey of getting your first set of clients, you have a couple hires, but then how do you take it from 1 or 2 or 3 team members at the firm to getting it to 10 or 12? So I'm very curious in your journey from starting out and having enough of a revenue base to say, hey, okay, we're going to be here, the firm's not going anywhere. What were some of the challenges you had to navigate in getting to kind of the place you're at now, firm of 12 and in a very kind of solidified state?
Sure. Our biggest challenge is people. And we early on, realized that it can't just be the two of us. And so we quickly, within a couple months of starting the firm, started looking for key talent, primarily another person that can be a technical expert so that we're not the only one. And then also that key strategic assistant. And you did say hurdle there. Well, our first quote unquote strategic assistant we found was not a good fit. And we were, at the time, we didn't understand all of the culture and all of the things that we needed to put in place to do that. We just found somebody who seemed like they were really personable and great to work with, and let's hire them. And so what we found has been key as we've grown is to really slow down, to take some time, understand who the person is, not just meet them once, say, yeah, you're great, this is going to work, let's go for it. But finding that person that really wants to do the role that we want them to be in, and understanding as we've grown, our biggest headache has been people wear multiple hats. Well, that only works for a little bit of time until the person wearing the multiple hats says, hey, hats 4, 5, and 6 really don't work for me. They don't energize me. They don't make me want to come to work each day. And so I need to take them off, or I'm just going to leave. And luckily we really haven't had that as a problem, but honestly, that was how I felt. I didn't want to be the one that was doing every little minutia. Nobody wants me in their QuickBooks Online account. They want somebody that can, for me, they want me to be the high level growth thinker, strategist for their company, for our firm. They don't want me figuring out whether I should debit assets and credit something else or whatever. Honestly, I wouldn't know where to put some of them. What we've done then over the last couple of years, so we started 7 years ago. What we've done over the last couple of years is really to formalize the project as we've added the key strategic assistant. 4 years ago, we hired Debbie. She's been phenomenal. And she just she gets us. And so she keeps us in our lane. And, and then finding those other key people that can fit into certain areas that love doing what we want them to do.
I love that.
Is the activity inventory. And so we had everybody fill out, what are all the things you do every day? And then put next to it, is that a green light activity? You like it and you're good at it? Is it a yellow light activity? You maybe like it, but you're not good at it, or you don't like it, but you're really good at it, so you do it anyway. Or is it red light? You hate it and you don't want to do it and you're not good at it either. And so as we've been able to formalize that, that's really been a key, is to get people then to stay closer to what they can really work on that they love doing.
I love that. The activity inventory.
Yeah.
Red, yellow, green.
Strategic coach. So I guess maybe a shout out to Dan Sullivan and the strategic coach.
Okay, we'll link it up in the show notes. Just to set the context, and I have a lot of questions about the hiring process, what you do, how many touch points happen, start to finish, how long is it? But to set the stage a little bit further, can you break down kind of the org chart as it stands today, and what it looks like and kind of everybody's role?
Sure. So we have myself, I'm in they call it visionary role. So I'm, big picture thought, how are we going to do this? Where are we going? How are we going to navigate the waters? A lot of firms call that the managing partner. I actually go the opposite of that. I'm really more, the managing partner to me is the integrator. That's the person that is going to be making sure everything is running well. That is primarily my wife, our CFO. She's a CPA as well. They refer to her as the boss. Like they trust her, everything gets done that way well. I've then, from the sales side, I function in the accountability chart as the sales and growth leader. We have a director of marketing, Brittany. We have a director of tax. She really handles the production side of the firm, makes sure all the projects, the due dates are being met. She's 20 plus years of experience as a CPA. And then we've got several others, like Debbie's really our director of administration, office manager, I guess you call her. Technically, she's remote, so it's hard to call her the office manager anymore. And then we have, the other people fill the roles within the firm, whether it's a preparer, bookkeeper, account manager, payroll, front desk.
Got it. So you have, just to reiterate, so you're in the visionary role, so folks familiar with EOS, and we'll link it up if not, but you're really, setting the strategy, you're the face of the company, things like that. So you're leading that. You're also overseeing all sales and growth activity, and you have a team member that supports you in that aspect. Mm-hmm. You have Michelle, who's kind of the integrator, or other people would say managing partner or COO, kind of just make sure the trains are running on time, everything's happening. Right. She oversees the kind of tax, accounting, fulfillment team, and the admin director as well. Essentially. Right. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, really, Michelle and I, we own the whole firm. So we're 50-50 in it, but they would prefer to keep me out of the weeds if they can. So she really handles, like, this is going on. She'll handle that.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so to dig into now the hiring process, you mentioned that one of the big lessons was slowing down, making sure you get the right fit. Walk us through your kind of hiring process today. How are you vetting folks? How are you interviewing them? And from the time of posting to the time of welcome to the office, how long does that typically take?
Sure, I'll use a couple good examples. It depends is going to be the first answer, which is pretty much the answer to everything in accounting. Um, we had our director of marketing. I've known her husband for 3 years. So she inherently came over with already a lot of social credibility. And so really that process started with an introduction, talking to her, sitting down. We met with, I met with her first, and then Michelle and a couple of the other team members met with her again, had her actually come into the office, talk with with all of our team if we could. And then we do personality testing. We use Colby, Kolbe. We have everybody run a Colby A index to measure their fact finder, follow through, quick start, or implementer tendencies, how they function. They call it cognitively, instinctually towards something. We don't technically look at the DISC analysis, but they're very similar. And then we actually use the Enneagram as well as a way to kind of function, see who, how do they typically go when they're healthy and when they're unhealthy. And there's no specific right or wrong, but we really want to make sure we don't have somebody who is in a role that's not going to mesh with them. If I've got somebody who, is really bad at follow through and a real high quick start, well, that's really not going to work it for me as an assistant because that's what I am. So they need to be somebody that's going to keep me on task, keep me focused. And so we try to figure out where those people are going to fit with those specific personality types. And then from there, our others, it's probably 2 to 3 meetings. A lot of times it does start with a phone call and just get a chance to talk to them on the phone. And a lot of times I'm pretty much that point person right now, because if they gel well with me, then I know the rest of the team will gel well with them. And the other piece too is, remember, I'm very big picture, high level. If they're not fitting the big picture, high level side of it, then it's not a good fit. So, and then I'll jokingly say this, but then the touchy feely stuff, that's where Michelle and Kristen and Debbie and Brittany, everybody kind of gets together and really feels, are they going to be great working with us day after day after day in our office? We have a couple of people that do work remotely. And so, but they've started in our office. We have not hired a person who started remote and has worked remote yet.
Got it. And through your years and through the hires, what have you found to be effective ways of, is it the type of questions? Is it, you mentioned the personality test, which is a great indicator if they kind of naturally are inclined to the right role. Have you found other things to help with the assessment, again, whether it's questions or exercises or other ways to vet folks out?
Yeah, I would say, we talked to them about, what do you love doing? What drains you? Like, what happens during a day that really frustrates you? We ironically talked to somebody that was going to be a potential front desk person. And she goes, well, I'm not really a people person. Sometimes I can get irritated. And I'm thinking, well, you're going to hate being at the front desk in a CPA firm then, because there's a lot of people that come in and they don't know what's going on. They don't know what they're doing. They've got a lot of questions and they turn to us for the advice. So if that frustrates you, you're probably not going to be a great fit. But really trying to figure out, what excites them, what motivates them, what kind of things do they love doing, and then finding those things. Is that something they're going to be doing more than 3/4 of the time, or is that going to be something they need to, if they hate doing something that's half their job, not a good fit. So we try to just measure that, like really, tell us a little bit about it. And then if they say, oh, I love doing this, well, why? Why do you do that? What excites you about that? Or, what does, or the opposite, what turns you off from that type of activity?
Yeah, makes perfect sense. To switch gears just a little bit though, let's say you now have this team on board. We talked about the org chart. What cadences have you found to be useful in terms of kind of managing or running with the team on a daily or weekly basis? Have you found, have you instituted certain meetings or touch points or updates so you have a pulse on everything that's going on in the firm?
Sure. So we use, we have project management and workflow that we are actively managing and looking at daily. And then we have weekly team meetings. We call them level 10 meetings. We want everybody to rate that meeting as a 10 out of 10. So we don't want it to be something where they feel like, what a hassle, I got to go do this, it doesn't make sense. And in that, we try to figure out what are our current issues. One of the things we always start our meetings off with, I say always, so but take that 90-95% of the time, is what's our positive focus? What's working well? What are we happy about? I'm really an optimist. And so every time for me, it's like, let's figure out the positive in this versus trying to figure out the negative in it. And then we do, depending on the time of year, right, with the accounting industry, we may do either 2 or 3 times a week. We'll do just a quick daily huddle. We have Microsoft Teams, so we can all jump on Teams and quickly, video chat or just go through like, hey, what's our high level things? Tomorrow's going to be a perfect example. End of first quarter payroll. Is there anything out there that we haven't touched yet that somehow we need to make sure gets done by today? Those are the things that we're trying to do, is having those weekly meetings. And then we are very big on celebrating. We have a team calendar in our break room. And I mean, the other day was like pretzel day, right? So let's try to figure out a way to have pretzels on pretzel day. And I don't know for any Arrested Development fans out there, but next week is Cinco de Cuatro. And if you haven't watched Arrested Development, it was the holiday they created the day before Cinco de Mayo. And if you haven't looked at it, it's hilarious. But basically, they had a holiday the day before Cinco de Mayo. So we're going to celebrate Cinco de Mayo on Cinco de Cuatro. So if you're watching this, obviously at some point after May 4th, try it next year. I think for a lot of Star Wars fans, you'd have May the 4th is a big holiday for them too. May the 4th be with you. So we try to celebrate those things and have fun. Accounting and tax work, well, I know some people love it. Some people think, hey, this can get monotonous and boring. So let's figure out how to have fun doing it. And that's for us a huge thing on the culture side. One of the things that I'm extremely proud of is, and we built the firm to start this way, is we don't want people working a lot of hours. People get a little bit stressed if it's after 6 o'clock. It gets to 6:30, you can tell the natives get a little restless and people want to go home. So we've tried to build out a firm so that we have clients that want to work with us all year round. They want to be somebody that they respect deadlines. And so our culture is really around that. Like, let's get in, let's get our stuff done, but we don't need to be here till 7, 8, 9 o'clock, or, like some firms, I mean, you're here till midnight working crazy hours. We've never focused on that being the type of fit for our firm. One thing I'll dovetail this into that we've done to accomplish that is we've quickly realized this is a business. We don't need to have as much maximized dollar out of every revenue dollar that we have for us as owners. We would rather have happy people that want to stay around and work here. And so we've always essentially overhired. If I find an A player, I really kind of figure out a way to get them here, because I can grow the firm if I've got A players. And I've, used that methodology and mentality towards anything. I've got a couple of those right now that I'm like, let's go bring them in. And everybody's like, well, what are they going to work on? I don't know. We'll go figure it out. Let's go find the revenue. Let's go talk to our clients more about what are some of their dangers and opportunities and strengths, and figure out solutions to help provide that we can do above and beyond that for them.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think when you build your firm, you really get to define the pulse and lifestyle that you want in that firm. You mentioned, kind of hiring in advance, whether it's at the L10 or outside of this. I mean, what metrics are you looking at to you mentioned if you see an A player, you're going to hire the A player, right? But it sounds like you also have a great, pardon?
Or at least try.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But kind of what metrics do you see as important for your firm? Whether it's around workflow and production or outside of that, what are you kind of looking at on a weekly, monthly, or quarterly basis to know if you're on the right track?
Well, the one thing we use, I mean, obviously you can go back to revenue. We look at revenue based on number of employees. We try to look at profitability based on number of employees. We try to have a certain level of billings for each of our account managers. In our 12-person firm, we've got 4 CPAs, an enrolled agent, and then we've got 3 staff that are working towards becoming CPAs, along with a bookkeeper and a payroll bookkeeper admin. So, you know, we're not going to have everybody fully billable. We need to, that was one of our key things, is we need to understand that we don't need to look at realization rates and things like that to know whether we're successful. We really need to know, you know, are our clients happy? So running net promoter scores for our clients. Are they referring us new clients? Are we retaining the clients we have? And then, you know, from that, you know, I'm also a member of PASBA, Professional Association of Small Business Accountants. I'm in a, you know, FRG group, Financial Resources Group, and we go through all of our stats, like how do we compare to other firms our size? And that's what we're tracking towards all the time. But really measuring it is, you know, what's our revenue compared to our budget? We do run a production schedule. I hate time billing. I hate time tracking. The accountants make me do it, or make our team do it. And, you know, and then I do find the information useful, but we have gone through and started looking at that. And I tell people, I'm like, I don't care how many hours you work. What are our billings? Because that's really what drives it. And so we're measuring that pretty much weekly compared to what we plan. So like last year, we're projecting about a 60, is that right? 65% growth for 2021. And so that was what I set up, and that's how I wanted to track it. And year to date, I think we're 10 or 11% over that through last week. I haven't run it for this week yet. And we're constantly tracking that to just see, hey, are we on pace or are we off pace? And then we can see even by the down in the employee level where they are, and kind of go, okay, this person's doing well. So one of the things we did, I'm going to dovetail to another, I'll digress here a little bit, but we set up an incentive system. Hey, if you're above your billings target, we're going to add 20% of that amount you're above it and bonus you out each quarter. It was amazing at the end of last quarter, you know, last month in March, how many, you know, at that last week, it was like, whoa, let's get a bunch of this stuff done. Let's work on this. And it was amazing how much more efficient everybody became, because A, they didn't want to stay past 6 o'clock, but B, they wanted to knock that number up as much as they could before the end of the month.
Yeah, well, you mentioned production. You run on a production schedule. Can you dissect what that means a little bit more for me?
Well, it's really just based on amount of billings that we're billing each day or week or month or whatever it would be. I can run a report in our CRM, and I can see what are our billings through whatever day. I can kind of slice it, dice it however I want, and then from there I can also then pull up an hour schedule and just kind of see roughly, are we close, are we off? I feel like we're always under on our hours, but we're over on billings, which is really the key to me, because inevitably, right, you spend an hour and a half on something, you may go, oh, what did I do? Oh, I spent about an hour on that. You put in an hour, right? Or I'm not like, hey, we need to nickel and dime this to the 5-minute mark or anything. So once again, production for me is what are our billings, and that's very easy because we either have clients that are paying us monthly already, and so we're just getting, you know, say $1,000 a month for this client. So that's already in there. Whether we spend 2 hours or 12 hours on them each month, we're providing those advisory services. And so I'm measuring that out of our billing module that Michelle keeps.
Yeah, and do you look at, you mentioned you don't look at realizations, do you look at utilization rate? Do you look at like capacity planning, or just not so much?
Yeah, a little bit. And that's where I say I'll go back to the hours, and I see a couple people, right, that I'm like, oh, you know, they're a little bit under where they probably should be. Like I said, our goal, so April's our busiest month, right? Well, actually, technically March is. April's off a little bit, but March, we want them to work about 180 hours for the month total. And so then April was 170, because typically you're done by April 15th, and then you do a little payroll, and then you're kind of just maintaining. Well, we're in Texas, nothing's due until June. So this month we've kind of been we switched that out and kind of moved it out. They're doing about 160 to 170 hours a month. And then we can see from there who's working more, who's working some less. But honestly, I can see the people when I'm here. I can see them working, and I feel like I have a pretty decent handle on it. So from a production standpoint, for me, once again, it's much more billings. I don't care if they spent an hour or 3 hours on something. Did they get it done? Was the client happy? And was it done right the first time?
Yeah. So you look at, the high level, it's like, revenue and profit per employee, net promoter score / are the clients happy, and was the work done on time? Was the quality work done on time?
Right. Yeah, I would say, we talk about, they call them pet peeves, right, or whatever, but what drives us crazy? And we go through that quarterly. We have what we call a coffee talk. And so we'll sit down with each person, Michelle and I, just one-on or two-on-one, I guess, but we sit down with them and just talk through, hey, what's been working great? What do you feel we need to work on? What do you think you need to work on? What are some things you really want, like some goals that you want to achieve this next quarter? And then what are some things that, what are some expectations we can build to make sure that 90 days from now, we look back and say, was that successful or not? And we do that the first week in February, May, August, and November. It kind of relates a little bit around non-busier times of the year. But I think that helps because the employees then feel like they have a voice. They have a way of having some input into the system, and it's not just, hey, I don't care what you're working on, get this done, right? I want them to be happy. I want them to brag about us to everybody.
Yeah. Craig, we covered so much ground here today. This has been a real treat. We went through metrics, we went through hiring, went through culture, went through celebrations, we went through Arrested Development references. We went through so much here today. If somebody wants to reach out, ask you a question, or just say thank you for coming on today's episode, what is the best way for them to connect with you?
Well, probably an email to our team inbox is team@cpataxteam.com. So team, TEAM @CPATAXTEAM.com. We do have a Twitter handle. It's @CPA Tax Team. And then we have our Facebook page. And if you reach out to us, we'd love to, I love to be a resource. I love to be an advisor. That's our number one core value, is advisor first. And I'd love to answer questions or help people as much as we can.
I love it, Craig. Thanks so much. And if you're listening right now, you enjoyed this episode, leave a review. If you really love the episode, share it with a fellow firm owner that needed to hear something that you heard today on the interview. As always, we're going to write up all the show notes. We're going to link up everything Craig had talked about at jetpackworkflow.com/blog. That's jetpackworkflow.com/blog. And Craig, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a great day.